Hello, I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One to One. Frequent travelers are used to buying travel books to help them get around England, Paris, Brazil, the Caribbean islands, Australia. But a 300-page guidebook to Brooklyn? Ellen Freudenheim is an informant for all things Brooklyn. And in her fourth book about Brooklyn, she has mined the evolving offerings of the borough that has 2.6 million residents. It is hip as well as old world, trendy as well as old fashioned. And as a trip on the L train will show you, it is constantly changing. She provides a modern Baedeker for us with the Brooklyn Experience, the ultimate guide to neighborhoods and noshes, culture, and the cutting edge. It's just been published by Rutgers University Press. And today we'll discuss what's old and what's new about Brooklyn and what you shouldn't miss. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I think, as I said, this is your fourth Brooklyn book. Why another Brooklyn book?
Well, the first Brooklyn book was the first that had been written since the end of World War II, and Brooklyn was just getting noticed, and Brooklyn was just undergoing initial gentrification. Since my first book in 1991, 25 years of evolution have almost completely changed the borough, except in ways that it hasn't. Today, Brooklyn is the most interesting and fast-changing borough of New York City. So people who either live in Brooklyn and don't know what's going on in other neighborhoods, or people who used to live in Brooklyn many years ago and can't believe what they're reading about the demographic and neighborhood changes, or tourists who've done the Circle Line and the Empire State Building and want to see something different about New York, really should take some time and investigate the neighborhoods of Brooklyn, because that's what Brooklyn has to offer, is really interesting neighborhoods and a tremendously vibrant cultural life.
So what are the aspects of Brooklyn that say Brooklyn?
Well, there's of course the Brooklyn Bridge. If you really want to see Brooklyn and feel Brooklyn, I would suggest having a menu of old and new. So the Brooklyn Bridge is old, and you get this incredible view walking in either direction, although the better views are walking towards Manhattan, but either way. It's a fabulous experience any time of day, really. You can see New York Harbor, you can see the other bridges, you can see Manhattan, the Manhattan skyline. I would definitely to see Brooklyn, I would see old neighborhoods such as Brooklyn Heights, and fast-changing neighborhoods such as Williamsburg and Bushwick, which was really an industrial neighborhood that has just become the epicenter of New York City's creative arts community. Not the galleries only, but really where artists live and work. It's very interesting and very fast-changing. I would go out to Coney Island, of course.
You mentioned stoop sitting. Brownstones, there, a lot of those.
Yes.
Churches, Brooklyn has a whole lot of churches. It also has a lot of public housing, probably more public housing than any other borough. And while the other boroughs certainly Queens have a lot of immigrants, Brooklyn probably has even more, would you say? It's a lot of immigrants.
I think there are probably more immigrants in Queens, but Brooklyn, 40% of the households in Brooklyn do not speak English at home as their first language. And I might add that about the same number, 40%, are food insecure. So Brooklyn isn't just a story about gentrification, and in my book I really try to talk about that Brooklyn isn't just the shoreline that's developing facing Manhattan with the high-rises of Williamsburg and Brooklyn Bridge Park, both of which are wonderful. But Brooklyn is really a living, breathing experiment in American immigration and assimilation of people of many cultures and languages and faiths. And I might add a successful one. So to see Brooklyn, I would say, definitely you want to go to a brownstone neighborhood and look at the stoops and look at the beautiful architecture. It's late 1800s, early 1900s architecture. I would go to some of the destinations that have been retrofitted to be something that they weren't originally, like the Brooklyn Navy Yard or Greenwood Cemetery. The lifestyle in Brooklyn, all you need to do is get off the tourist track a little bit and talk to people, and you'll get a sense of how real Brooklynites live. If you go out to Midwood, to DeFara's Pizzeria, which is one of the acclaimed family pizzerias in New York City, hang around in Midwood and talk to some people, and you'll get real Brooklyn. People have a sense of humor. They'll take a minute to talk to you. These are, these are people who are earning a living, getting on the subway, their kids are going to public school. These are real New Yorkers, and it's still accessible in Brooklyn to find those people, talk to those people, go to those bakeries, go to Brooklyn College. I've said in this book, if you really want to feel Brooklyn, go to Flatbush. It's, probably 40 languages are spoken in Flatbush. Brooklyn College is an escalator into the American dream. It's where many first-generation Americans or immigrants themselves go to get their college education. And usually it doesn't happen in 4 years. Usually it takes 5 or 6 years because people are working part-time. This is a wonderful, still melting pot. And then you have North Brooklyn, which is full of young college graduates who are powering part of the creative economy that really makes New York distinguished as a creative center in the country.
Brooklyn's also where the artists are now, right? Because they can afford to live there. The ones that used to live in, I guess, the ones that were in Soho and other places, they migrated to Brooklyn.
Well, the artists keep chasing cheap rents, and so they hop from neighborhood to neighborhood right ahead of the rent wave. So artists lived in Dumbo for a long time, and then they moved out into Williamsburg, and now it's Bushwick and possibly East New York. It's hard to be an artist. You need light, you need space, you need cheap rent, and you need a convivial community. Right at this moment, in 2016, it's Bushwick. And the Bushwick Open Studios is a weekend art festival event, and you totally get the vibe. It's very countercultural, it's very communitarian, it's really interesting. Bushwick is big, so if you go there, bring a bicycle or plan to walk, bring comfortable shoes, right, or do an Uber, because to go from gallery to gallery is distant, and it's not obvious at all what's a gallery. There's not a neon sign saying come in here.
But space, I mean, that's another characteristic of Brooklyn as opposed to Manhattan. And
it has been, but Brooklyn's real estate market is really in the ramp up of prices in Brooklyn's real estate market is actually endangering its artistic community. If people own a property, an apartment or a home, they're okay. But if you're a renter in Brooklyn, in a lot of neighborhoods, you're at risk for being priced out. And so it depends the status of the artist. A lot of the artists, of course, are pretty mobile, and they might work in Bushwick or work in Flatbush for that matter, and live elsewhere, or vice versa. But there's a lot of art and music. Yeah. Tons of indie bands.
Really?
All over North Brooklyn. Yeah, everybody's in a band.
Okay. Some of the trendy neighborhoods, there are trendy neighborhoods that everybody knows about. Williamsburg has been trendy for a while, Fort Greene. Park Slope has been desirable. Probably isn't trendy anymore. It's probably just sort of...
I live in Park Slope, and Park Slope is so not trendy.
Right. It was trendy for a while, but it's not trendy.
A bit of a snoozer these days.
Right. I don't know, Dumbo. Is Dumbo trendy?
Dumbo's expensive, but the views are beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just right there under the bridge. You feel the city, you hear the city, you see the city from Dumbo.
There's something called the Brooklyn Cultural District. Tell me where and what that is.
The Brooklyn Cultural District is an amoeba. It stretches over here and it stretches over there. It includes the Brooklyn Academy of Music and a new entity called BRIC House, which is BRIC, and they're the people who put on Celebrate Brooklyn, but now they have kind of a community arts center. It's completely fabulous, has all kinds of programming going on pretty much 7 days a week. Theater for a New Audience is there.
Which is such a wonderful title.
Theater for a New Audience?
Yeah.
Yes.
And where is that exactly?
That's right across the street from BAM and the Mark Morris Dance Center Home. They don't often do shows there, but that's where the dancers who travel around the world.
But that neighbor is that?
That's Fort Greene.
Okay.
But the Downtown Brooklyn Cultural District is kind of a made-up name that lassos parts of Fort Greene and parts of Brooklyn Heights. It goes all the way down into Brooklyn Heights and includes the Brooklyn Historical Society, which, for those who are not history-minded, may sound dreary, but it's a fabulous old building with a wood-paneled library that feels like it's out of some Victorian movie. and they do excellent programming, really interesting collaborative programming. So there's the Brooklyn Cultural District includes a whole lot of culturals, as we
Does it
call them.
include the Barclay Center?
It does, and the Barclay Center does double time. It is a sports arena, of course, and they also do huge concerts. So they have seating for 18,000. It's as big as Madison Square Garden.
There was a big outcry against it, as there's a big outcry against anything new that's
Yes.
being built anywhere in New York City, but it seems to have been fabulously successful.
Well, they have good programming at the Barclay Center, and a lot of people go to they've got a couple of sports teams there now, and Disney on Ice is there usually during the winter for family entertainment. It has been successful. It is the linchpin of a very large development. It used to be called Atlantic Yards. It's been redubbed Pacific Park, which is still controversial because eminent domain was used by the developer with support of various politicians to basically seize land for private development. So there is a lot of controversy, and the Atlantic Yards development, the Atlantic Yards development, now called Pacific Park, will be one of the most densely populated high-rise residential areas in the country, to my understanding, and it's being done with prefab. The buildings will be done with prefab construction. It hasn't been tried anywhere else but Japan at these heights. Some of the towers will be 60 stories high. So that remains controversial, but basically I would say that the developers of the Barclays Center more or less won the public policy argument, which went on for a decade.
And the Brooklyn Navy Yard, what do you find there these
The
days?
Brooklyn Navy Yard's fantastic, and it's like one of my #1 recommendations for people
And what
to do.
neighborhood is that in?
Well, it's in the neighborhood that historically was called Wallabout, and it's sort of Fort Greene, Clinton Hill. It is its own area, really. I would put it in Clinton Hill. The Brooklyn Navy Yard has a visitor center that is called Building 92. They kept the original name of the building from when it was a Navy Yard. It is a wonderful, must-see little micro-museum that talks about the history of the Brooklyn Navy Yard, where many, 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 many battleships were built, and now they're making culture. So Steiner Studios is there, which is a really big movie productions stage set where a lot of in the book I list the various productions that have been filmed at Steiner Studios, and there's a film school there now. And
You got the Brooklyn Grange, which is a rooftop.
fabulous. In the book I have
farm.
a picture of a bee. It's a very unlikely thing, an apiary. They're raising bees on the top of it at the Brooklyn Grange with a view of Manhattan, like a completely killer world-class view of Manhattan. The Brooklyn Navy Yard is tourable only by a group tour, by bike or by bus, depending on when you sign up to. But it's very, very interesting. And they are renovating some very historic structures, an old Navy hospital that was very overgrown and was very picturesque. It is now actually getting a Wegmans supermarket, so I believe that there will be more and more public programming and more housing in the vicinity, hence the need for a supermarket. It's totally a must-see, the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and it's quite close to the Brooklyn Academy of Music, to Williamsburg, to hipster Williamsburg and Hasidic Williamsburg. The juxtaposition between Hasidic and hipster Williamsburg is eye-popping. You would pay to get on an airplane to go to some other country to see this because it's so unlikely and interesting. So the Brooklyn Navy Yard it's a great visit, and people.
So
are
it's
always
on the
surprised.
water. What water is it on? What?
It's the area is called Wallabout, and it faces Manhattan. So you've got me there. I don't know what that body of water is exactly called. It's not New York Harbor. It's north of New York Harbor. It might be the East River, but I suspect there's a
Okay.
name for it. But the area is very, very old and historic. There used to be in Wallabout a marketplace where the farms, that Brooklyn was full of farms. The farmers from Brooklyn would come to the Wallabout market and have an open-air farmers market, basically. And people who were vendors from Manhattan would come across and get the produce and bring it back to feed Manhattan, which had no farms. So the Brooklyn Navy Yard sits at a strategic juncture, but also a historic juncture. And what's cool about it is that it's evolving and it's being repurposed. It was a sad and empty place for a long time.
time.
Yeah.
We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be back with Ellen Freudenheim. Welcome back to One to One. I'm Cheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Ellen Freudenheim. Her latest book, The Brooklyn Experience, The Ultimate Guide to Neighborhoods and Noshes, Culture and the Cutting Edge, has just been published by Rutgers University Press. Brooklyn has been very racially diverse for a long time, but has been becoming more white and Asian and less black. I guess part of the gentrification. Where have the blacks gone to?
Well, I have to say that Brooklyn, as I think a lot of New York City, has become increasingly ghettoized. And so you see this particularly in the black community of Bedford-Stuyvesant. Bedford-Stuyvesant is a historic black community, as Harlem has been for decades, and it has followed in Harlem's footsteps, I believe, in that there's more and more white people are coming and purchasing beautiful brownstones and renovating them, and there has been a kind of a shift in the demographics. When I moved to Brooklyn in 1983, Brooklyn was majority African American, minority Caucasian, and majority African American and Latino. The Asian population of Brooklyn is growing, but not, and it's growing quickly, but it's Latino and African American that comprise most of the non-Caucasian population. I think that this is a very important question, and I think people are being, because the housing prices in certain neighborhoods, historic black neighborhoods, actually Fort Greene as well as Bed-Stuy, people are following, as I said before, following this real estate market. Some people are moving into more dangerous neighborhoods like East New York. Some people are leaving the city.
Yeah.
Some people are going to other boroughs.
What are the wealthiest neighborhoods in Brooklyn?
I believe Dumbo is the most, in terms of real estate prices, Dumbo is the most expensive.
Really?
I think, yes, because it's all new housing. There was no housing there. It was an old, crummy old port area. Brooklyn Heights is very, very expensive. Clinton Hill, because what you have in Clinton Hill are these spectacular mansions around Pratt. Some of those are really, they're like not quite as big as Newport, Rhode Island mansions, but they're really spectacular.
Are these old mansions?
Yes, these are old mansions and landmarked.
Parts of Flatbush, Prospect Park South?
Prospect Park South is expensive, but not as expensive as Brooklyn Heights because the transportation is iffier. And parts of Williamsburg have become very expensive because it's so trendy.
Yeah.
And you have luxury high-rises now. Mm-hmm. Brooklyn has a new skyline. Brooklyn never had much of a skyline. It was sort of a joke. You'd come from Manhattan to Brooklyn, and there was like, where's the skyline? And now there are high-rises that are popping up, particularly around the Brooklyn and Manhattan bridges. Some of those apartments are expensive because they have all the amenities and these spectacular views.
What are the poorest neighborhoods, the struggling neighborhoods in Brooklyn?
Well, East New York is poor.
Right.
It is also on the city's radar for low-income housing development. The community has a lot to say about that. I don't know whether it's going to, how that's going to shake out, but it's a transportation nexus, and so I suspect the city will win. Canarsie, in parts, is poor. Brownsville remains poor and dangerous. And, there is a decrease in crimes, or has historically been a decrease in crime citywide. I mean, there are ups and downs every year, but Brownsville still suffers from gang activity, drug activity, a lack of municipal services, a lack of intervention, and probably a lack of healthcare services.
Gowanus?
Gowanus is a very interesting place. Gowanus, again, was barely residential. It was light industrial. So there was almost nothing you could live in Gowanus except for a couple of old working class homes. Now there are high-rises in Gowanus, and it's become quite expensive, so the housing is new. Gowanus is going to really get very expensive in a few years when the Gowanus Canal is a Superfund site that's being remediated, and that remediation by the EPA will be done in, I think, 5 years. And then it will become the Venice of New York. I can't think of another part of New York where there's a canal right in the middle of a residential area. So there's now Whole Foods right in Gowanus. There's very interesting, hip little restaurants in Gowanus. And again, there's a community-based struggle to keep light industry there and a developer push to develop as much available land as possible, and it's a little unclear who's going to win.
Is it a usable canal? Is it used as a canal anymore? Are there?
No, it was built, it was a pre-existing physical, it was a pre-existing geographic thing that existed, this canal, and it was expanded during the industrial era of Brooklyn in the 1800s. It was expanded and widened and straightened out. And then it became deeply, deeply polluted because right around it you still see the cement factories. Right behind Whole Foods you can see the cement slurry thing going down. And the Gowanus Canal was a synonym for A, pollution, and B, dumped mob bodies, because that was historically near Carroll Gardens, and Gowanus itself had a lot of old Italian mob activity. I mean, it's a well-known fact.
And of course you have some very insular neighborhoods like Borough Park, largely Orthodox Jews. Parts of Crown Heights, well, the Crown Heights is sort of shared by Caribbean Americans and Orthodox Jews.
And now hipsters.
And now hipsters.
Crown Heights is one of the up-and-coming neighborhoods. Franklin Street in Crown Heights has undergone an astonishing resuscitation. I mean, there's an awful lot of stuff going on in Crown Heights. And also I might add, there's wonderful old things going on in Crown Heights. I want to add a plug for the Brooklyn Children's Museum, which is in Crown Heights.
Are there, I mean, what neighborhoods would you recommend for young pioneers?
To visit or to live in?
To go and be pioneers, to live.
Well, Crown Heights is huge, and I would definitely look in Crown Heights. And I would, if I were a young pioneer, I would look in Crown Heights, I would look in Bushwick, I would look on the third or fourth stop on the L train in Williamsburg, and I would go to Flatbush. I keep saying this, but I would go to Flatbush. I would go look at Sheepshead Bay. It's waterfront property. There's a public beach there. It's very far out. It's really only useful if you can work at home or telecommute or something. But Sheepshead Bay is a sleepy, non-gentrified neighborhood. It's interesting. Brighton Beach is mostly Russian, but it's also waterfront property, and it's inexpensive. It's kind of a schlep on the subway, but you know, a lot of people feel they need to be with people like themselves. So they want to be in a place where there's already a Starbucks, already a cafe, already a, 5 or 6 interesting restaurants or a bar. If you're adventuresome, you might want to go look at some of these other neighborhoods, Sheepshead Bay, Flatbush. And I would keep an eye on places like, East New York's transitional, but some nonprofit arts organizations have already made the move from Bushwick to East New York. It's tough there. You have to be able to deal with diversity and some a little danger, but New York morphs fast, and I suppose if I came back here in 3 years, the picture might have changed.
Yeah. I was out at Kingsborough Community College the other day, which I guess is sort of
Sheepshead Bay, Manhattan Beach.
Manhattan Beach, and it's, you go to parts of Brooklyn, it's like being in a whole different world.
Totally, especially Sheepshead Bay, Manhattan Beach.
Yeah.
And that's a great little beach over there. It's expensive parking, but it's a fabulous little public beach. It's almost like a private beach.
If you, now, I assume you're pretty much settled in Park Slope. If you could live any place in the city, money being no object, where would you live?
Oh dear. Well, I love where I live. We happen to have was dumb luck when we moved to Brooklyn. Who expected to stay there for 30 years? Not me. I might want to live on Central Park West.
Ah.
I would like to live. Well, I miss Manhattan. I have to admit. I miss Manhattan. I miss being able to walk to 6 cultural institutions, with no problem. On the other hand, I love the diversity that is Brooklyn, and I hope that I hope Brooklyn doesn't do itself in and price itself out. I hope Brooklyn stays diverse. That's, of course, the big challenge and the big question. I don't feel that way in Manhattan. I feel Manhattan has sort of been overtaken by just an enormous influx of enormous wealth. So demographically, I'd stay in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Culturally, I'd like to sojourn for a while somewhere near the Metropolitan Museum.
Okay. Okay. Well, I learned a lot about Brooklyn from your from your book, and it makes me feel like I need to go and explore some of these neighborhoods. And it seems to be the L train is the way to do that. That
That's
seems
the
to be
way
the
to
key
do North
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Okay.
That's the way to do North Brooklyn. Well, I'm hoping that you do come to explore Brooklyn, because that was the point of the book, not to give a definitive answer, but to whet people's appetite to say, oh, I didn't know about Greenwood Cemetery. Let's go check it out.
Okay. We're out of time. I want to thank Ellen Freudenheim for joining me. The Brooklyn Experience, the ultimate guide to neighborhoods and noshes, culture, and the cutting edge, has just been published by Rutgers University Press. For the City University of New York and One to One, I'm Cheryl McCarthy. If there are any people you'd like to hear from or topics you'd like us to explore, please let us know. You can write to me at CUNY TV, 365 Fifth Avenue, New York, New York, 10016, or you can go to the website at cuny.tv and click on Contact Us. I look forward to hearing from you.